and welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Tonight we have Johnny Litecoin with us. The report is out. The White House has spoken, and it was really interesting to see who was speaking. The DOJ was there. I didn't know they were into crypto, but apparently they only want to punish the bad guys, unlike the SEC. But the Supreme Court put them in their place. We're going to tell you about that and more right after this with Johnny Litecoin. So give us a like, jump in the live chat, and let us know what you think about it right after this. Welcome back, Johnny. There is so much going on tonight, or today and tonight. The world is shaking from the earthquake, and the White House has got news coming out. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. We got some exciting news. Super excited. Looks like it's a done deal. House is sold. Contract signed. And another exciting thing, our realtor was telling us, people are selling houses for gold, doing exchanges for homes in gold.
That's really promising.
Yeah.
That's really promising.
Yeah. When he was telling me about that, and I was asking him all these questions like, well, who certified the gold and how'd they do the proof of funds, and how did this all happen? And it was a great conversation. Are you hearing about it anymore? And he's like, well, realtors are talking, but nobody's really talking about the details of that kind of stuff. And that brought up the privacy issue. And we were talking just before, and those kind of transactions, when you're transacting for a home, that's something you would want on a public ledger, I would think. And that's where something like Litecoin comes in.
Correct. You don't want privacy for a transaction like that. You want to be able to say, hey, here was the transaction ID on the public blockchain. And what better blockchain to secure a transaction like that on than Litecoin? Because let's face it, I mean, if you have to go back, prove that transaction for a purchase or sale of something like a home, an expensive asset like that, you want to use something that's reliable. You don't want to be like, hey, I'll send you Fartcoin and or something. You want to.
Yeah.
I'd feel much safer knowing, hey, I sent Litecoin. That network's never been down. But it goes to show how this optional privacy is the way to go. I feel like when MWeb first came out, some of the real privacy people were like, well, it's good, but it's not. It's opt-in privacy. That's still not good enough. We need everything private. And I'd argue like, no, we don't want. There's some transactions we want public. We want to be able to validate. Even we, the people, want to be able to validate some of these transactions. Maybe in the future, like we talked about, government, states, these different bodies would have to settle into a blockchain like Litecoin or like Bitcoin, and something that can be validated. I think that would be a good thing. Where again, you wouldn't want privacy for that, because that we would want to be able to see it. The transparency of it would be the benefit in a situation like that. But for we, the people that transact with one another, we want our privacy. That's where we want the opt-in privacy. It's like, okay, cool. We want a transaction like a home on this public blockchain stamped, where we can both parties can validate it. But hey, if I'm transacting just in my normal life, I don't need that all validated. If I went out and bought a steak for dinner or something like that, you know what I mean?
especially gifts for family or dealing with, medical issues, things like that, things where, you do want privacy, then that's really important for transacting. But I could see where you want to establish a market value for future or for current markets, then I could see where it would be important to, have a public
Yeah,
post.
yeah. So yeah, just definitely an advantage of Litecoin. And Litecoin's had a good month. It's gained ground on Bitcoin for the past 30 days. So that's bullish. And I always track the ratio to Bitcoin instead of necessarily the US dollar price. It's up in both, but the important thing is it's up in the pairing against Bitcoin. And it's still really undervalued. It's about 1,000 to 1 right now.
Wow.
That's still a crazy ratio. 1,000.
That is really crazy to 1, considering it's, mined. Well, is it mined 4 to 1, or the supply is 4 to 1?
It's mined 4 to 1 as well, because there's a block every 2.5 minutes, and there's a Bitcoin block every 10 minutes. So theoretically, some of the time it is mined 4 to 1, depending on the halving. To know when the halving falls in that cycle. Did both coins halve yet? And they're on the same block reward.
Okay. And I know, discussing the privacy issue, some people choose Monero, and not to bash Monero, but I did see some news where there are some miners who are planning a takeover of Monero, and like a fork, and they're using some other token that they're like mining the Monero or the XMR is
Monero.
XMR, thank you.
Yeah.
And but then they're burning it using this other token, and their plan is to do some kind of like fork. And I guess it's within reach at this point, because of it's not a more decentralized mining opportunity. So
it seems like for those users, if I was in Monero and I said, oh shit, I need to go into something else, but I really value privacy, and that's why I was in Monero, I would be swapping into Litecoin. Because what other option do you have that has that large of a market cap, so it has stability, has time in the market, has all that also has privacy? Some might say, oh no, they'll go into Zcash, but Zcash, I'd much rather be holding Litecoin in terms of saleability, market cap, liquidity, and all that goes.
Right. And the use case alone on like things like platforms like BitPay. And then we're seeing recently, these Litecoin treasuries, companies doing things like that, the ETFs rolling out, and not to mention Charlie Lee posting about, wheeling and dealing, making deals, still out there hustling for Litecoin. Be Remarkable has a question. What are your thoughts about hearing, I guess she's heard that Grok, some of these AI models are saying that Litecoin just won't reach all-time highs.
Well, let's search it now and see what it says. What should I type into Grok? When will Litecoin hit an all-time high?
Sure. Put it on voice so it does it audio on the.
Oh, I don't even know how to do that.
If you put it on audio and then
try voice mode.
Yeah, voice mode, and then it'll speak back the response.
Oh, I gotta like download something separate.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. When will Litecoin hit a new all-time high? Litecoin having cycles. I mean, I don't see it saying that. Yeah, I don't see where it said. I'm sorry, I don't see where it said that.
So it depends on what you've been searching
And it depends
previously.
on what they quote different models, the
Mhm.
AI, when they do stuff like that, like bullish forecasts. Like here I'm reading 2026 and beyond. It's suggesting a range of $320 to $550. I see $500 plus for 2026. That's a midterm. Long term, people are saying by 2030, 1,000 to 1,750 to $1,755. So yeah, I don't see, and I think price predictions on something like an AI, I don't really know if that's look, that's the future, and there's so many things that AI that can happen that the AI can only account for its search and run at these algorithms for and all that data that's happened up until that point in time.
That's right.
If you ask AI a question, it's going to say, okay, at 9:34 p.m. Eastern Time, July 30th, 2025, based on all these factors so far, here would be a future Litecoin price prediction. Now, if you asked it a month later, there could be events that happen in the meantime, and now it's going to alter the price prediction. So I think a price prediction is always a moving target. And that's what I would say about especially a US dollar price prediction. That's why I actually forget about the US dollar price prediction. I look at the pairing in terms of other assets, because if you watch like Bix Swear's show, he says they could put any asset at any price. They could put silver at minus $40 like they did with oil in 2020. So with all that, if they shut down exchanges, if all that happens, that's why I really look at asset to asset. How many ounces of silver does one Litecoin get you? How many Litecoins does it take to buy an ounce of gold? How many Litecoins equal one Bitcoin? How many Litecoins equal one Ethereum? And I look at those ratios to see if an asset is overvalued or undervalued. I don't look, US dollars always being manipulated, and what they're trying to do to manipulate assets. So I feel like you really just have to block that out. And it's hard for us if you live in the US. You're seeing everything priced in dollars. It's hard to block it. It's fun to look at the US dollar price. Don't get me wrong. We all look at it. But that doesn't, to me, show the value. If it's like, let's see something overvalued or undervalued, I'm like, ooh, how's it performed against Bitcoin for the last 1 day, 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 5 year? Then you get a trend in your mind and you're like, okay, well, it's pumped against Bitcoin in the last day. It's up in the last week against Bitcoin, but it's down against Bitcoin over the last 90 days. It's way down over. So it's, if you compare things like that, you're going to get a better idea of the, I feel like you're going to make better moves too, and you're going to act less emotional, because usually the right move feels like the wrong move. Like when Bitcoin gets strong, people are like, I want to keep my Bitcoin. Now's not a good time to swap it into Litecoin. Litecoin's not performing good. That's exactly the right time. And then on the flip side, when Litecoin's performing really good, it feels really good to be holding Litecoin. It's like, hey, now's the time to buy some silver. Now's the time to swap back into Bitcoin. It's like, oh no, but if Litecoin's doing so good, it's a hot coin. It feels so good to hold Litecoin. It's like, yeah, but now it's up big against Bitcoin in the last year or something like that, right?
That's where that fear greed index comes in. And if
That's a real fear greed index. And I'll keep saying it. What I have my radar on is where one Litecoin will buy you 10 ounces of silver. That's happened on several occasions. That'll happen again. Right now, one Litecoin gets you about 3 ounces of silver, roughly.
Okay.
So if you think about it, I would never right now want to buy silver with Litecoin unless I wanted to buy silver and Litecoin, I needed Litecoin to make the transaction or move the money. But then I'd want to do like a spend and replace where I'm acquiring more Litecoin back because I'd be like, hey, I don't want to use Litecoin now to move it into silver because of that ratio. Now, silver stays where it's at. Say it goes to $40 and Litecoin goes back to an old all-time high of $400. Now we're at 10 to 1. Now it's going to feel really good to own Litecoin. You feel so smart. That's your time to take Litecoin and buy silver.
Buy silver again. Yeah.
Maybe you even at that time look at the price of Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin's 150,000. And then you say, okay, how many Litecoins does it take to get one Bitcoin? And then at that price ratio, it'd probably take you about 375 Litecoins or so to get one Bitcoin. Okay, well, that's a lot better than 1,000 to 1 where it's at now, or 1,200 to 1 where it was just that. So if you think about it, if you really like Bitcoin, somebody says, I love Bitcoin, I want to get the most Bitcoin possible. What's your best strategy to do it? I'd be like, well, put your fiat into Litecoin right now, wait for Litecoin to move against Bitcoin, and then swap into Bitcoin. And then you maybe got one Bitcoin for what it would cost you to buy a quarter of a Bitcoin right now.
Right. So just watching those ratios and then trading hard asset for hard asset in your possession.
Yeah. Why would you want to, if you think about it, other than a little bit to pay some bills off or whatever, like, don't get me wrong. Like if you might need to pay something off and you're selling Litecoin for fiat, but I feel like if you're moving it or paying something, that's a good use of it, right?
Right.
But if you're just selling it to be like, I want to stare at money in my bank account, that's like, well,
it's risky.
It's risky because you were in Litecoin or this hard asset for a reason. Now you're moving back into US dollar. What's the inflation rate? What's the real inflation rate? Is the bank even going to be there anymore? How much trouble are they in? What's going to happen? Are you going to have access to your assets? How much value if it goes? People are like, well, it's FDIC insured. Okay, but how much value is that dollar going to have at the time of the settlement?
Right. And we know that they're going to make the shareholders
You might have 500,000 in your bank account. You're like, I'm good. I got 500,000 in the bank and it's in 2 accounts. So I got FDIC insurance in both. I'm good, Johnny. It's like, okay, well, if you're with a big bank and it goes down, the FDIC can't cover all that. One big bank takes down the system, right?
Literally, that happened in Oklahoma during COVID. One bank, it wasn't even a big bank, went down, and they ended up talking to Janet Yellen, putting her. It was back when Yellen was out, and they put her on the stand. And I don't know if Lankford. It was an Oklahoma senator. I think it was Lankford. Like, called her out about it and was like, why didn't you make everyone whole? And she's like, because we didn't have to. And so they don't have to. And they will pick winners and losers when the time comes.
So say they have to pay out the FDIC insurance, right? Let's say they're in a situation where it goes to like, there's a big bailout for it. And they say, okay, we're going to do this multi-trillion-dollar bailout to bail out bank, whatever bank it is, right? Big bank, the big 5 or 6,
This was like a tiny bank in Lindsay, Oklahoma.
No, I'm saying, say this happens and they have to, that would be such a shit situation to be in. They'd have to print so much money, create so much money.
Yeah.
There'd be such inflation that could set a total run on every bank. Then there's then we could be going, say we're going into a hyperinflation, right? Say that did happen. And now all of a sudden you're waiting on this FDIC insurance. You're like, yeah, they're going to do a bailout. Yeah, on that fiat dollar price. So what if that $500,000 all of a sudden there's 400% inflation like there is in Argentina, like there's been in Venezuela, like there's been in all these countries, right? Now all of a sudden you're wiped out. You're like, oh my God, I had all, you know what I mean? So it's
you get your 500,000 and you can buy,
whatever it buys at that point in time.
Yeah. I don't even know what that would be equivalent to. Maybe what would be $5,000 2 days before.
That's why you have to, I'm not a believer in telling people, hey, don't have any money in the bank, right? Mm-hmm. People got to live their life, pay their bills. They need liquidity for that. So I'm not against somebody that says, hey, I have 10 or 20% of my money in the bank, right? But I have 80%, 90% in hard assets. So if shit happens, most of my money's in these hard assets anyways. I'm good. I'd be like, well, that's a good strategy to have. You know what I mean? But I feel like for most people, it's the other way around. They're like, oh, I got 98%. My financial advisor said I could put 2% in hard assets. I need 98% in these other things, right? But 2% I could put in the hard assets. I'd be like, oh my God, that's not a good idea. So I feel like for most people, they have to flip-flop the percentage of their holding. You know what I mean? Look at this. Hey, it's all right to have a little bit in that. Well, it's like what we talked about back in the day when I liked the lending platforms and all that risky crypto stuff. Mm-hmm. I'd say, well, 80% you have to just hodl, right? So 80%, but 20% if you want to play around with that. I said, okay, I get that, right? That makes sense. Maybe 5% you have on exchanges that you're trading at any time. Maybe 5 or 10% other percent you have in DeFi. Maybe the final 5% you have in a lending app. I'd say, okay, that's a good strategy because even though that stuff's risky, you're not wiped out. One of those things goes bad. Yeah, you lost 5% of what you had, but you still have 95%. So it's like, okay, you were trying to make some money and be risky, but you stayed safe. You're not even feeling that bad,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I just recorded an interview today with Brandon from CoinFlip. He talks about some of those strategies. He also talks about some of the tools that CoinFlip offers, kind of a DCA payroll option for companies and to offer their employees. And then also an over-the-counter option with some really low fees for people if they're looking for either swapping or buying over-the-counter. So I'm going to play that recording on the channel for everybody, and he'll be live in the live chat this weekend, Friday afternoon, for people to ask questions. But it reminded me of when you and I would do. He also shares some platforms. One of them's Peapods, that has kind of that dollar or those pools where you can earn different interest or whatever through staking some stuff. But then one of them is like a bond. It's you lock up your, I think it's USDC. So it's more like, it's much less risky. So it's not as high of earnings, and you lock it up from anywhere from, there was one he showed, okay, there's only 9 hours on this, so you're not going to make very much money. But then one of them was for like 4 months. And if you put like $100 grand in it, you would have made, I think he said close to $4 or $5 grand or something.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Not bad at all. Much better than return than what's going on in banks right now and stuff. So that video will come out on Friday afternoon before happy hour. But it was some of those options that you were sharing with us earlier on some of those platforms, and he's willing to like work with people one-on-one, like a private kind of concierge service, and help people with it and stuff. And help.
I love the idea of getting paid in crypto, because I feel like, if you're getting paid for a job or on a regular basis, you always want to be investing some of your money. So what are you putting it in? Are you buying gold? Are you buying silver? Are you some people buying stocks? Are you buying crypto, right? I feel like if it happens automatically before you get paid, because life happens, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, I'm going to buy this much crypto, and then this happens, and it's like, so, but if you're just used to it coming out and automatically paying you in crypto, it's a way to accumulate a lot faster, and you're mentally just used to it. I think that's a really cool idea. But yeah, I love the idea of making yield and making return. So my plan is probably to, at some point, deploy a lot of capital to DeFi and put Litecoin to work that way. And I feel like, especially when Litecoin's strong compared to other cryptos, you can go into these liquidity pools, pair it with other coins that are good coins. You could make a lot of money in the transaction fees in the meantime. Then you could wait till Litecoin falls in price, pull your liquidity out of the liquidity pool. Then you're coming out with more Litecoin because how the ratio moved. So it's a kind of a way to hedge. So you're putting money into something, you're making yield, and you're hedging at the same time. So it's like you could go into something with like 500 Litecoin, right? Time it right where you're going in, again, knowing the ratio is going in at the right time. You could pull out with 1,000 Litecoin, and you were making yield the whole time. So it's not only did I make, in that situation, 500 Litecoin, I was making an income the whole time. And now I have more wealth or more capital because I have more real estate on that blockchain. That's the way
to play the game again later.
Yeah, and that's, if you think about it, people did similar strategies in real estate for years. So if we understand this crypto thing, why not, instead of buying, people say, well, buy investment properties and do stuff like that. I'd say if you know how to use DeFi and all that, do that, because you have such an advantage over, do what you're good at and what you've been trained at. You know what I mean? Unless you're a real estate mogul, other than buying yourself like a property or two, that's a cool idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for, is to that to be our next step. So I'm excited about that. I wanted to touch on my little conspiracy theory that I unpacked with you before we got started. And I even saw more little signs of this as I was sharing videos with you, that I didn't even put all this together, but I want to get your feedback on this. So I'm going to go through a couple little things really quick. I know we weren't going to do a long video, but so we're kind of bumping up on time here, but we saw the Genius Act go through, and we had some concerns about it, especially for privacy issues like we're talking about, and, you know, mass surveillance and all of that. And the White House put out
today's report positions America as the leader in digital asset markets, strengthens the role of the U.S. dollar, combats illicit finance, and ensures fairness and predictability.
Our goal is to deliver on the president's promise to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world, and that wouldn't happen without our leadership in this building, being our AI and cryptos, our David Sachs.
I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at this yet. It's a pretty impressive tome.
This report is a culmination of months of research and over 1,000 meetings between industry stakeholders and members of the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets.
Thanks to the leadership of President Trump, the regulatory weaponization against digital assets is finished. This Department of Justice's priority is focusing on going after bad actors who victimize digital asset investors.
Together, we will make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world, and we hope you join us in celebrating this report. God bless you all.
The only reason I believe her on that is that there were many late night meetings leading up to that bill being passed, and one of them, Tim Burchett, posted this, and he says at the end of it, so at the very beginning of it, he says it's storming cats and dogs. Men, notice that he says the word cat. And at the very end of the video, he turns around and there's lightning happening behind him. And he says, a real light storm back there. So I'll play this one real quick.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. It's raining like cats and dogs, lightning striking. Anyway, we just worked it out on the cryptocurrency, and what we were concerned about was the ability of the federal government to track it in a unnatural way, and like you can't really track cash, and very Big Brother-esque, the central banking thing. And so we were able to get that worked out in agreement with the White House and leadership, House and Senate. So hopefully we'll get this thing worked out. And so I went on and voted yes on the cryptocurrency bill. So it's real light storm back there. Anyway, late night. Still got to go do an interview on the CNN, as they say. And but we did what we set out to do. We went a little slower, and guess what? We got there a little faster. So thank y'all for sending me here, and Big Brother loses once again.
So he mentions cats, the storm, which nobody ever said that Trump would say the storm is upon us. They just said there'd be an announcement. He also mentions lightning and shows you lightning. He says it's a real light storm back there. He also mentions concerns about mass surveillance and the central bank. And then my friend Nick Morgan from ICANN just posted this. And this is a huge win. So the SEC was had a huge loss. And this is in the Supreme Court. I hope I'm sharing the right page with you guys. Hold on. In the Supreme Court, the SEC was, the 11th Circuit dealt a blow to the SEC's Consolidated Audit Trail, CAT, C-A-T, last week. The American Securities Association, Jennifer Schulp, and she's from Cato Institute. She's an amazing lady. And about the origins of probable fate of SEC's massively intrusive Dragnet database. So what it was is there's this whole cracks in the cat. And on X or Twitter, I posted a video where they do an interview and they discuss the whole case. It's Nick Morgan and Jennifer Schulp from Cato, and one other guy. I think it's this other Christopher guy from the other group, but they it is a database that the SEC has put together called CAT, where they have been tracking investors' trades unconstitutionally. They've been violating everyone's privacy, and the government has been hacked multiple times, which makes a honeypot of Americans KYC, all the AML KYC information. And so they've made Americans vulnerable, which if that information is needed, it should be subpoenaed. They should need a subpoena
to be collected on everybody.
Exactly. And so it was defeated. The CAT was defeated and broken.
It's interesting too. He said Lightning because Lightning Network does offer a great degree of privacy, or could at least, right? Lightning Network is way more private than like the Bitcoin base layer, okay? Mm-hmm. Ethereum is not private whatsoever, no privacy. Ethereum, the wallets don't even create, like Litecoin, a lot of the wallets, after you receive a transaction, when you go to receive again, it'll change the address. Ethereum wallets out of Ethereum never do that. So you can look at an Ethereum address and see every transaction they've ever done. So that when he says Big Brother-esque, stable coins on Ethereum are very easily tracked. Lightning offers a lot of privacy. In Lightning, I could see banks in a lot of ways favoring Litecoin. Not Litecoin, I'm sorry, Lightning Network, because they can be these LSPs, these Lightning service providers. They already are money transmitters. They don't need any of that. And even if, you would say, Lisa, or Veritasium people would say, well, Lightning's violating the patent of Reggie's, right?
Which
Well,
doesn't mean it can't be used. They just need to pay the man a fee, just like
That
Microsoft.
would make it more validated. If you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like, this is good technology. It's
It's good
patented.
technology.
They would
Yeah.
sell that as like a good thing. So I don't know. That's how I would kind of break that down. If my
Well, and-
conspiracy hat's on, that would bode well for Lightning Network instead of like Ethereum network to run
And
these.
Johnny, to that point, Coinbase, in the last few days, JP Morgan Chase has now opened the door through a partnership with Coinbase for people to buy cryptocurrency on Base, and through JP Morgan Chase, through their stable coin USDC, I believe it is, through Base. And so that kind of opens the door to use something like a Visa on the Lightning Network, I would think. Is that correct?
Or
would they?
That's opening the door for adoption. But I think as far as running a lot of throughput through and for privacy, like, again, everything he mentioned was for privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum and things like that, not private. Lightning, a second layer. Not only is it private, it also can offer potentially good throughput. Now, people would say, oh, Lightning hasn't worked well up to this point. I'll agree. It's not a great solution. The best wallets are all centralized, but the bank, that's what they want. They don't want that's perfect for them. They'll say, yeah, they'll give you in your regular banking app, they might have a Lightning wallet in there. And then it's all running through these. They're a huge LSP with a ton of liquidity in that channel. They can route huge transaction volumes and throughput on a Lightning. They have the infrastructure set up for it.
With minimal to no fees in like seconds or minimum, not even seconds. Yeah. And all this settlement happens almost instantaneously. I mean, it's all set up to do. And here we are at the end of July. I mean, I just feel like the wheelhouse is all there, and the doors just have to be.
Or another situation is banks could get cut out of the equation, the traditional banks that we see, and other kind of banks could arise, like X app. Like, I even saw today, I went to pay my Verizon bill, and they said, hey, deposit money with us, we're paying 4-point-something% interest. So Verizon must have a banking license, obviously. So these new banks are going to arise, where I could see the old banking infrastructure wanting all this KYC and this verification because that benefits them. New systems could arise that run in a more private manner through these new banking entities that need to gain clientele anyways. So they would sell that as an advantage, where the regular banks that already have your money, they're going to try to scare you and tell you, well, you're laundering money. If you do that, you must be a criminal. No, you don't need private. You know what I mean? Make it hard for you to move your money out.
Yeah. What were the two apps that were just asked? If you want to donate to the national debt, you can use PayPal and Venmo.
PayPal, yeah.
Yeah. I could see something like that, because with those, you can even establish a bank account. Like, they give you routing numbers.
Sure.
That if somebody were to need to wire you something or whatever, you are establishing a banking account through their app on your phone.
That's a bank. Even Cash App, that gives you a routing and account number. Yeah. So for most younger people, like, why are they going to need a regular bank? Well, they'd be like, well, Cash App has a routing and account number. And especially a lot of these online only banks, they'll say, well, go to any ATM and we'll refund it to you. So they reimburse the people all the ATM fees. So if you think about it, that's actually better than getting free transactions from your bank. You have to find your bank. You might be in a town your bank's not in.
Right.
Now you want to take some cash out. You want to take out a lousy $200. Your bank's charging you $3.50, and that ATM's charging you $3.95. Shoot, you're paying $7, $8 to take out. You know, you're paying 4% to take out $200.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Where these other kind of banks, like Ally, they refund you up to a certain amount in 1 month, so you can go to any ATM. That's an advantage over just going to, I think at least. Well, who cares what ATM I'm at if it has a high limit? If I need to take out more than a lot of ATMs, the limit's $500, but there's some that limits $1,000.
Yeah, I've had that experience with our antiquing and stuff. Like,
Hold
and
up, Verizon email, Lisa. Says we're offering you the chance to earn 4.2% APY with Verizon plus open bank savings.
they're making savings great again. They're
Yeah,
making it cool to save again.
They're introducing Verizon plus open bank savings, a high yield savings account that helps you get more for your money. Earn 4.2% APY plus get up to $180 off your wireless bill for up to 12 months, only for Verizon customers. Interesting.
Of course, we're losing, 20% in inflation every year. But in theory, if they can stop the inflation, then that might be valuable. But
well, if you are gonna have any money in a bank, at least make sure you're getting some interest on it, because a lot of the you could have it in something that's making 0.01, or you could have it in something that is at least giving you like 3, 4, 5%. You're better off doing that. Then you're only losing maybe 10% a year instead of 15 or 20%.
Yeah. Oh man, how crazy! That is so crazy. Yeah. So I just had to tie all my little conspiracy theory about the cats and the lightning. And maybe the Genius Act wasn't so bad. Maybe they did tie up that little naughty kitty cat late in the night and let lightning strike it. I'm always hoping for the best, and we'll see what happens. So thank you for joining us and giving us your opinion on that, and all the great information on watching those ratios and holding hard assets in your possession. And I just really excited about the future for everybody. I feel like good things are ahead, and it's all coming together.
Yeah. Well, have a plan, you guys. You can't go wrong having a plan of what to do. So that's the very least, have a plan. Make it now.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. What day is today? Wednesday. So we will be back tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow morning is WBRT. We're going to have a great, it's kind of an open forum. If you have not gone to den.social, go to den.social and you can ask any question on the World Blockchain Roundtable Forum. It's just open, and it's like a free for all. Find tomorrow's date for the show, and you can ask any question, anything goes. You'll be earning cryptocurrency and lot on the den.social platform, and anybody can join with just an email, and then you can play along, and it's a lot of fun. And then tomorrow evening I'll be on with Skullcap Savant, and then Friday it's Coin Flip with Brandon, followed up with the one and only Clint Westwood. Happy hour. So busy. We'll see you guys all soon. Take care. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Lisa. Great show. Thanks, you guys.
Take care.